Welcome back to the study of the way of the Bodhisattva. We are on chapter 2, confession, and we're on the third verse. And we're continuing with this offering, right? So we set ourselves up in this condition where we have something to offer, even if we don't have anything to offer, right? This is the amazing, amazing qualities of some of the Vajrayana, and you can see it even here at the sutra level. So, verse 3, every mountain wrought of precious jewels, all sweet and lonely forest groves, the trees of paradise adorned with blossom, trees with branches bowed with perfect fruit. So, you're just imagining the perfect conditions. Think back to like hunter gatherer times and the things that you would just long to find, right? There's like deep in us this longing to find it. So, a mountain made of jewels, when we're like trading with jewels, there's just gemstones on the ground for you to pick up everywhere. And lonely forest groves that don't have predators in them, that are just open and beautiful, right? Like that sparkling magic that you find in a meadow in the middle of a forest. The trees of paradise adorned with blossoms, just flowering trees everywhere. Just imagine like cherry blossoms in Japan in the springtime, that kind of thing. Just fields and fields and rows of flowering trees, and trees with branches bowed with perfect fruit, like you find in along the equator. Just bananas and mangoes and everything you could ever want, just right there. Like no fear of starvation, no need to worry. You could just relax up against a tree and eat some fruit. That kind of abundance is what we're trying to get at, this feeling of abundance, because when we feel abundant and generous, we open, right? So we're starting to crack ourselves open, and we're making this a habit by connecting to it. And by connecting it to the Buddha, then every time you see an image of the Buddha or read a Dharma text or do your practice, then you start to relate that openness to those symbols. This is how we're starting to train yourself to be able to do this more and more and more. And it begins with this relationship of offering, but it expands to everything. And eventually you even make offerings to yourself, right? Because your own Buddha nature receives the offering. So this is the trajectory as we start to really work with merit and karma. But because we're working on a bodhicitta level, it's infinite and it's just about openness. It's not about collecting, right? Because if you collect, if you think I'm giving and then I'm receiving and then I have a certain amount, then you just have a bigger ego. You just have more sense of self, which means you're going to suffer more, right? This is what we're trying to get away from. We're trying to realize the open possibility and basic goodness that we exist in which we don't need to be always fighting, protecting, pushing, pulling, all of the things that we're doing. We're learning that we can navigate the things in life without closing down. And that's the miracle of all of this. The perfumed fragrances of divine and other realms, all incense, wishing trees, and trees of gems, all crops that grow without the tiller's care, and every sumptuous object worthy to be offered. So you just imagine the most amazing perfumed oils that you could ever think of. Perfect. Just think of like, the most expensive cologne or perfume store you've ever been into, where they just have like hundreds and thousands of dollars per bottle, like that. And think of incense and mountains of powder, just heaps of it. If you ever watch how Japanese incense is made, it's an incredible process. In the traditional style, where they mix the ingredients and soak it and grind it down, and then push it through like a Play-Doh machine to make those little strips. It's just incredible. So you can imagine just mountains of well-made incense like that, just pouring smoke up into the heavens. And you can imagine that all the wishing trees and trees of gems, right? So these are the trees of the pure realms. These trees, whatever wish you have, they return to you. Trees of gems, they're not even made of wood. They're literally made of crystal. All the crops that grow without the tiller's care. So naturally arisen fields of barley and rice and wheat and these things, without any work, without any effort. They're just there ready for you. This abundance of the Pure Land, right? Because when we visualize the offering of the Pure Land, we're getting there. For those of you who practice in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, you know what we're moving towards, right? This pure vision. Because as we make these offerings in this space of purity, and we just right now we're relating to it as like something we're giving to the Buddhas, but more and more we can realize that we're in it now. It has to do with our perspective. Every sumptuous object worthy to be offered. Lakes and mares adorned with lotuses, delightful with the sweet-voiced cries of waterbirds, and everything unclaimed and free, extending to the margins of the boundless sky, so you can capture that morning, like you're at a cabin at a lake high in the mountains, and there's just a few waterbirds landing on the lake. The peace and the openness and the beauty away from civilization, these sorts of things. So try and just flash these moments, whatever, be creative. You get to play around with this. That's part of what makes it engaging and worth doing and fun to do, is you get to use your imagination to connect to whatever inspires you, whatever feels amazing to you. Give those things and notice how just thinking about these places and objects makes you feel more open, more generous, more content. And as you practice offering it to the Buddhas, you're offering it into openness. You're learning to let go. You're learning to experience the beauty of the world without attachment. You can enjoy and share. There's enough. That's the amazing part of generosity, right? Like, the more you give, the more you have, and the more you feel you have. And so we're training ourselves at a deep level to be this way. You do it and you do it and you do it, and then one day you find that you're willing to actually do it, right? You're willing to give away what you have, even your own body, whatever you have to offer to those who need it, because we've practiced doing it so much mentally that it now becomes a possibility physically. That's how this works. Everything unclaimed and free, extending to the margins of the boundless sky. Everything, people think they own everything nowadays, but I think that's kind of ridiculous. So we can imagine all the things that people don't really own. We can give those away, right? National parks, these sorts of things. So I hold them all before my mind, and to the mighty sage, the greatest of our kind, right? That's what a Buddha is. The Buddha is just the greatest, the furthest potential. And to his heirs, I make a perfect offering. Sublime recipients, compassionate lords, think of me with love, accept these gifts of mine. So we're making this deep connection, and we're building our faith, and we're building our trust, right? Because the world is full of things that aren't very trustworthy and are hard to have faith in. But there's this, because you can conceive it, because you can think of a Buddha, because you can think of all sentient beings having everything perfect, just because you can touch that thought, because you can touch the thought of a Buddha, of a being beyond comprehension who has no negative qualities and all positive qualities, you can start to realize, if we can conceive of it, we can relate to it. And if we can relate to it, we can move in that direction. So that's what we're doing. We're training ourselves to turn the boat towards this. Why would you point yourself at anything else? Why wouldn't you point yourself at that which is greatest, which is the most love, which is the most excellence, which is the most happiness for everyone? Why wouldn't you point your boat towards that? Why would you settle for some parsley little thing along the way? That's a waste of our life and experience. There's no harm here, right? Because if we make these offerings in this direction, we relate to it, we spend time with it, then we are starting to open ourselves to it, and we start to become it. The phrase, the mantra I always think is, you become what you meditate on. And what do we normally meditate on? Stress, worry, anxiety, frustration, difficulty, sickness, things we don't want, things we do want. All of that makes us feel terrible. But when we think about the Buddhas, when we think about infinite love, when we think about these big, beautiful, open situations and objects, we feel open, free, and happy. And so we're making ourselves happy. We're making ourselves feel good. And we're training ourselves to make others feel good, because it's mutual, because of interdependence, right? So when we make somebody happy, we feel happy. That's just how we're built. So we're connecting to that and making ourselves trained to do that, because we're not ready to do it all the time in our life yet. But I bet you can read this and imagine it. So give that a try, work through this, make this offering again and again. Anytime you see something amazing, offer it. Anytime you taste some amazing food, multiply it and offer it. Imagine whatever you enjoy, and whenever you encounter it, try to feel giving it away, because this will reduce your attachment and make you enjoy it more, right? Because when we enjoy things with grasping, then there's subtle pain involved with our enjoyment. But when we're able to enjoy freely with a relaxation around us that isn't binding to it, then we feel much more free and open and happy. So I hope you're enjoying this. If you're enjoying it, As always, please like, share, subscribe, and thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.